Does Allah love the disbelievers?
He gives them chances. I don't know. You have to ask the scholar.
So how come you know what the Bible God does when He loves or doesn't, but you don't know if your own God loves? What is martyrdom?
Thank you very much.
What is martyrdom?
Thank you very much.
What is martyrdom?
What is the definition of suicide? Definition of suicide.
What you see, He's clearly refuted himself. Allah encourages people to fight in the name of Allah. And if they are killed, they will receive a reward in heaven. Is that not suicide?
So my question is, can you from the Old Testament show me where it says that the Messiah will be killed, crucified, and resurrected?
From the Old Testament. Okay, so
Nobody can come to your church. Nobody come to your church. My church is here. Nobody. This is my church. Nobody comes to your church. No. You represented one of the second biggest religions in the world. No, the biggest religion in the world.
So we'll go to there's a few passages. We'll read them out. Psalms 22. Okay.
Right, the truth, you do not know the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man.
So I'll read out the verses that allude to a crucifixion, and then I'll substantiate with non-Christian evidence as well.
Are you a sinner?
So I'll start from.
All right, you are a sinner. Are you a sinner
verse
or not? You are a sinner. So who is your Savior?
11. So it says, "Be not far from me, for trouble is near, and there is none to help. Many bulls encompass me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me. They open wide their mouths at me like a ravening lion, like a ravening and roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax, it is melted within my breath. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to my jaw. You lay me in the dust of death, for dogs encompass me. A company of evildoers encircles me, and they have pierced my hands and my feet." And we all know what happens in crucifixions. "I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments amongst them. For my clothing they cast lots." And this is exactly what we see happening with Christ. They cast lots for his garments. And then it says, "But you, O Lord, do not be far off. Oh, you may help. Come quickly to my aid." Then I'll go to Isaiah. Isaiah 53. What verse? I'll start from 1. It says, "Who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like a young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He has no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteem him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. He was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. And all we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, and for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of living, which is death, because he was cut off out of the land of living, stricken for the transgression of my people. And then the last verse, I'll just go to 9. It says, and they made his grave with the wicked and with a rich man in his death, although he had done no violence and there was no deceit in his mouth. And there's one other verse, let me just find it in Hosea.
When you're quoting these verses,
Yes.
it doesn't say
Explicitly.
that the Messiah will be killed and crucified and will be raised from the dead.
Yes.
What it says is that the Messiah will be inflicted in some sort of pain or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
he'll go through some sort of revolution.
Yeah.
But it doesn't specifically say that he'll be killed and crucified.
Not in that explicit. It doesn't say the word crucifixion. So the thing is, for example, when
You don't have it.
not in the way you want it, because if I go to a Jew and I ask them, is there someone called the Messiah? They will say yes. If you say to them, can you give me a direct verse that says this person is the Messiah or called the Messiah? They'll say no, because we have to understand the hermeneutics of the Bible. We cannot impose our own understanding on the text. Otherwise, if we use your criteria, even the Jews wouldn't be waiting for a Messiah, because it doesn't state it in that same way. So we have to use the Bible to interpret it in its own way.
Michael Licona, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his
Yeah,
surname
Mike
correct.
Licona.
Yeah, you've heard of him, right?
Yeah.
He's a
I think he's a liberal scholar.
He's an evangelist Christian, and he's a New Testament historian.
Yeah.
And he says that clearly there is no manuscripts or otherwise to say that the Messiah will be killed and crucified. There isn't.
Yeah.
To suggest otherwise is ludicrous.
Yeah, and as I've said, I've not said in that way. So let me ask you a question. Do you believe Muhammad is in the Torah? So we have a criteria.
I believe, in some passages there
Okay.
you can argue that he's
All right.
talking about Muhammad.
So
It
now-
doesn't specifically talk about a
Exactly.
person, just attributes.
So using your own criteria, it doesn't say this person is Muhammad, but you can look at the passage and relate it to Muhammad. But then if other people do that, you'll want to see where it specifically says this and this will happen. It's a double standard. Because how do you come
This
to your
event
conclusion?
is a great event that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The Messiah is going to be killed and crucified for
Yeah.
the sins of man.
But using
it's
that
a
same
huge
logic,
event.
isn't Muhammad
It's a huge
supposedly
event.
a huge event as well?
It's a huge event, and there should be some sort of mention to say this event is going to happen, it's going to come.
So how do you
So
account
to his
for?
greatest prophets like Moses or any of the prophets, I'm sure God would have given some sort of hint that his son is going to come to save mankind, basically, some sort of hint. But there isn't.
Yeah, but there is, and that's why we have what we call biblical.
You have it on the New Testament.
But this is what we have, why we have biblical prophecy. Because that's why I was going to even show you, for example, and I'll show you from Jewish sources. Because
the Jewish sources will only either embellish or just repeat what the Greek sources say or the Hebrew sources say.
no, I'm going to show you something.
But
I'm
those
going
are the
to,
New Testament sources.
because I'm going to
There's
show you
nothing from the Old
something.
Testament
Because no,
to suggest that the Messiah will be.
that's false, because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
If the Messiah is killed, it's the false Messiah.
And I'll tell you why. Because we have
Correct me if I'm wrong.
we have
Doesn't it say that in the Old Testament, in the Torah, that if the Messiah is killed, it's not the real Messiah?
No.
That's why when the Jews killed him, they believed wholeheartedly that it wasn't the Messiah because he cannot be killed.
No, I'll tell you why. For example, I'm going to give you some Jewish sources, non-Christian sources. If I can quickly find it. So this is from a Jewish source, and I read to you Isaiah 53, and I said that was about Christ. Now, this is
specifically say Christ.
Yeah, I know, but this is what I'm going to give you.
just
This is what I'm going to give you. This is what I'm going to give you evidence. Now, this is something called the Targum. It's basically an Aramaic of the Hebrew, because in the first century we know Jews couldn't read Hebrew. It was almost a dead language. So they spoke Greek and Aramaic mainly. So this is from one of their earliest rabbis, and I'll just ask you to read. Where is it? All right.
Who created? Listen. God, who created?
So I'll read Isaiah 53. I can't see the word up. There it is. So I'll read Isaiah from verse 9. It says, and this is their interpretation, nothing to do with Christianity. He shall gather our captives from affliction and pain, and who shall be able to narrate the wonderful works which shall be done for us in his days. He shall remove the rule of the nations from the land of Israel. The sins which my people have committed have come upon them, and he shall deliver the wicked into hell, and the riches of treasure which they got by violence unto the death of Abaddon, that they who commit sin shall not remain, and that they should not speak folly with their mouth. But it says, and it was the pleasure of the Lord to refine and purify the remnant of his people, in order to cleanse their souls from sin, that they might see the kingdom of the Messiah, that their sons and daughters might multiply and prolong their days, and those that keep the law of the Lord shall prosper through his pleasure. So when I read it to you, it didn't use the word Messiah. But even from the rabbis, they said this verse was about the Messiah. So this is even, because if you believe as a Muslim, the Torah was given to the Israelites, the Israelites have to be able to understand the Torah. But they're mentioning the Torah, the Messiah in this passage, their own rabbis, because they believe this passage was about the Messiah, and this is not a Christian text. Now we also see the Qumran community, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and what we find in the scrolls is that they believe that there was going to be a Messiah that was killed and wounded. So these are things before Christianity.
But do you believe in the manuscript? Do you believe in it?
Well, the no, we don't follow it because we only follow the Bible. But my point was, my point was evidence from a non-Christian perspective that these, because I said to you, we have to understand what is biblical hermeneutics. We can't go.
I quoted Michael.
I'm giving you one of the.
He's a Christian.
Yeah,
and he's not going to be biased.
But that's what I'm saying. I said this.
I didn't want to quote you an outside source because I thought if I quoted you, let's say Steve Carrera, who's a historian. You've heard of him, yeah? Probably Steve Carrera. No. He's a historian and he does a lot of talk about Christianity as a history, and if it meets the criteria in history, but he has his own thing, right? And he even quotes
because
have you heard of the theory of the hypothesis of Q?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So but he goes and say that can't be true, but he's got his own hypothesis.
Yeah, but
what I'm saying, like I didn't go for an outside.
I know,
outside
but that's what I'm trying to explain to you because
so I quoted you a Christian scholar.
Yeah.
Who's a historian.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with what he's saying. I'm just trying to clarify.
So can we just agree that
it doesn't say it in that way?
So we can agree that the Old Testament does not say that the Messiah will be killed and crucified.
Not in one long sentence, no.
Can we just agree that it doesn't say it?
Yeah, not in one long sentence. It alludes to it.
That's what I want to hear. Just yes, basically.
Yeah. Because what I'm saying now is that we have to look at. But let me just stress that point. Because we have to look at it logically. Where that the Qumran community, when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they believed that the Messiah was going to die. Okay, I'll give you the references. Now, my question would be, if these were Jews, what caused them to come to that conclusion? There must have been something in the Bible that made them believe that there was going to be something that detrimental that happened to the Messiah. So that's why I'm saying, how do we utilize? Because I agree, it doesn't say he's going to be crucified. My argument, that's why I brought the verse that says it's his hands and feet will be pierced. Even based upon that, it doesn't mean crucifixion, but when it happened and they read back, they put two and two together, because some prophecies are retrospective. You understand? Because imagine if we know that some people rejected the Messiah. Even in your Quran, as your Islamic belief shows, that some people wanted to kill the Messiah. So now, if it gave the exact details in the exact way they wanted, what is to stop those people to go and kill him? That's why we see Christ had to even move. When the wise men went to Herod, he said, yeah, tell me so I can come and worship him. But he wanted to kill the Messiah. So this is why God hides things within the Bible for the truthful believers. And this is why we have to understand, and that's why I wasn't using a Christian source. We can go to the Dead Sea, the Qumran community, and the Dead Sea Scrolls come before the Bible, and look at what did they believe about the Messiah. So if they believed he was going to die, what were they using to come to that opinion?
Just the last thing, just to wrap things up. It's diverting from our original conversation. Basically, if I hurted you in any shape or form, would you forgive me without needing a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, animal or otherwise, could you forgive me?
I could forgive you.
Yeah. So, with that being said, you are more forgiving than Yahweh, or whatever you want to call him, God, the Father. You are more forgiving than God the Father.
Well, you would have a problem with that conclusion, because we know that Jews were ordered to make we know Jews were ordered to make a sacrifice to atone for sins. Do you agree with that, yes or no? Yeah, but you believe yeah, so that means but if you agree with that, that means Allah told Moses to kill an animal to atone for the sin. So you'd have to tell me, why did Allah give that instruction to Moses?
It's a miracle. Why? Because you're taking a huge shift from animals to human sacrifice now. God, he could have, like, he's the creator of the universe, the heavens and the earth. Yes. And how did he create it? Did it require any sacrifices? No. He just said, he created with his word. Okay. So, and at the end of the day, the sin that he came to save us from, he could have forgiven it. But he shifted from animal sacrifice to human sacrifice. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. So, you as a human being, can forgive me for without requiring an animal or otherwise sacrifice. Will say that you're more loving than this God.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you have children? You have children?
Yeah.
If something bad was going to happen to your child, would you give your life to save your children's life?
Of course.
Why?
Of course. But
Why? Say the why.
I get where you're going.
No, wait. But say the why. Give me answer why. Answer why.
Push this son.
Answer why.
Because I'll give. If my son needed a liver, if my liver was compatible, whatever, I'll give it.
Yeah, I'm saying your whole life.
If I see a car coming towards my son, I'll jump in front of him.
Why?
Because it's my son.
But why? Because you love him. Thank you. Now
what's in me from God.
All right. So now you agree that one of the strongest emotions humans have is love. When you have your first child and your first child comes out, that is one of the greatest experiences you can have, because it changes your perspective.
Love to push your son in front of you.
But we'll get to that point. But let's establish first that love is one of the greatest deeds that anyone can do, because Christ says there's no greater deed that someone can do than lay his life down for his friend. So now God is giving us a demonstration of his love for creation, because I can ask you, because Christ, who we believe created the universe, created the world, is now coming to give us a demonstrable example of how love is demonstrated. So he's given his own, because everyone would agree God is like perfection.
So God is love.
His core essence, yes. It is his core essence. But wait, before we jump off. I know, but let me just answer a question. So now for you, what would you say is the greatest thing Allah has done for humanity?
One thing.
The greatest thing was to give Muhammad, I would say, or to reveal the Quran. I don't know. There's many things. I'm not.
I'm just asking you. It's not about scholar. I'm asking, in your opinion, what you believe is the greatest gift. But I would say
it's the Quran.
It's the Quran. So now we have agreed that you would give your life for your child. Yeah, exactly. And now Christ this is what Christians will say, this is the greatest gift that God can demonstrate to us, to say that he will give his own life or go through this humiliation, this experience of being whipped and brutalized to demonstrate how much he loves our creation, when we would do the exact same thing for our children. But you're saying the greatest thing Allah has done is give the Quran.
Like, it wasn't God who came down and suffered, it was his son who suffered. Yeah? And the other thing is, when you say God, when you say Jesus loves you, Jesus does not love, in 1 Corinthians 6:9-11, Jesus does not love those who sin sexually. On 1 Corinthians 6:10, Jesus does not love those who gossip.
Yeah,
Jesus
read out,
does not.
read out the verse.
Jesus does not.
Yeah,
on Exodus.
read it. No, don't just
gonna
quote
go
the
for a list.
verses.
I'm gonna go for a list.
Yeah, but we don't know what.
But you say he loves.
Yeah, but listen to what I'm saying. Wait.
So
I'm saying
love.
Yeah, but wait.
And then again,
Slow down.
it
You
wasn't
see,
God.
all you're trying to do.
wasn't
Wait.
God
Slow down. Slow down. If you want to give the verses, let's read the verse in the context. Don't just say the name.
I'm showing you.
Yeah, but let's look at
God
the.
or Jesus himself says it himself. You know, either God is speaking.
Yeah, but let us
or
look at
Jesus
the
is
verses.
speaking,
Let us see
and he's
the
saying
verses.
that he doesn't love these people.
Let us see the verses.
So yeah, what?
Because I can say to you, does Allah love the disbelievers? Does Allah love the disbelievers?
Let's look at 1 Corinthians.
Does Allah love the disbelievers? Does Allah love the disbelievers?
It gives them chances. I don't know. You have to ask the scholar. Does he love
So how come you know what the Bible God does when He loves or doesn't, but you don't know if your own God loves?
I study
Don't
the
you
Bible a lot.
Why don't you study the
I study the
Quran?
Bible a lot.
So why is it?
I do, but you know what?
How do you study the Quran and you can't even answer that
I
question?
can't give you a definitive answer.
Why?
About the Quran or anything like that.
But how do you
Because I
know
haven't studied.
How do you know the Bible verses
Islam,
but not the
yeah.
Quranic
With
verses?
Islam,
Don't you think that's a bit of
With
hypocrisy?
Islam, you have to understand the Arabic, you have to study the Arabic.
Why don't you?
I studied the Arabic a little bit, but I cut my studies short.
But then give me the English one then.
No, I'm in English, but
Yeah.
you can't understand the Arabic.
I just find that very strange.
Understand English. Because the Arabic
don't you
say
think-
with one thing,
Yeah, but I
and then
just
in translation you're gonna lose it.
Yeah, but we want the English. The verse that says Allah
He's
loves
not
the
reading your
disbelievers because
Bible.
he's gone through a
You
long
don't read
list.
your Bible in Greek or Latin.
But you're reading the
But you
Bible
read it-
in
you read
English.
it in
But you
English.
can read the Quran in
You
English.
read it in English.
Don't you think that's a
translation,
double
right?
standard though?
Sorry?
Don't you think that's a double standard? You're
No, I
giving
don't
me the
think so. I don't think so.
You're giving me
No,
the
I don't
Bible
think so.
verses, but you don't know that you can't
But
answer my
you-
questions
you
about the
read the
Quran,
Bi-
which is your own belief.
I could quote the Bible verses in Hebrew if you like, or Greek, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna understand it. But you read the Bible
And you, as a Muslim, read the Quran.
But when I memorize the Quran, first it's all memorizations, and from there you understand.
Then you read it in
each
English.
thing. No, I didn't get that part where I understood what I was memorizing.
Yeah,
I
but
memorized
do you
it.
read the Quran in English?
No, I don't.
You never read it in English.
No, I have to understand each.
So you memorized the Quran and you don't know anything. So how do you know anything about your religion?
What I've been taught and what I learned myself. That's it.
What did you learn for yourself?
Oh man,
Because you're reading the Quran. No, but it
character
doesn't make sense. You're
assassination.
reading the Quran in Arabic,
Can we get
so
to-
you've memorized something you don't understand. Like,
Can we get to because now you're trying to go for a character
no,
assassination.
no, it's nothing to do with characteristics.
Yeah, you are.
We have to establish
for a straw man.
up on him now. Come on, man. He wants to read verses where God says He doesn't love certain people. But I asked him, does
But you
Allah
say- you say
love the
you-
disbelievers? He said he
but you-
doesn't know.
no, my point
I said,
is-
how do
my
you know
point
more
is-
about the Bible?
My point is, no, my bro.
That's a fair question though, Mr. Brown.
We can get to the verse, but I started. This is how I started.
What verse? No, I don't want to
This
hear
is how
the
I
start.
started.
I just want to hear the verse you're trying to quote from that God doesn't.
So Jesus on 1 Corinthians 6:9-11, Jesus says, Jesus does not love those who sin sexually. What does he mean by sexually? And yeah, and again, go for it. Yeah, that's what it says. What's that? I got it from Bible Hub.
What's that?
1 Corinthians 6:9-11.
But let's continue.
What is there to continue? I can quote you many verses where God Himself says He does not love those who.
But why don't you
certain things.
why don't you go to
But then you say
John
He loves you.
3:16?
Wait. You say He loves you.
Do you want to read that
But
from a
then
proper Bible
He
instead
does
of
not.
what
He
that
does
is?
not come down Himself. He pushes His Son in front of the moving
9/11.
bus. How is that love?
Where does that say
It's
that?
not love.
Where does that-
Love would be Him coming down. But love would be
Do you
truly
agree?
love would be to
Wait.
forgive, rather than let mankind go
Do
on
you
with their
agree?
sin.
Do you
That's
agree
it,
that
that's
Christ
true love.
says?
Does that say what that says there? Does that say what that says there?
Do you agree that Christ said, "I lay down my own life"? Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown. I know, you can hear what I'm saying. Do you agree that Christ says, "No one takes my life from me, but I lay it down myself of my own will"? Do you agree that Christ said He lays down His own life by His own accord?
Do you agree with it first? Well,
I'm
I'll
asking
answer
you-
it. No, I'll answer it, but do you agree?
Yes.
Yes, he
Do
did.
you agree?
He laid his own life down.
Do you agree with it?
So for me, that
Do you agree
is
with that statement?
that is called suicide. When you kill yourself, it's called suicide. Very simple.
It's suicide. So wait.
Wait.
So
Let's get to it.
let's
We're diverting.
No. We're holding you to your own standards. Wait.
We're diverting.
Let me ask you.
We're diverting.
Let me now. You said wait.
Something's hurting you. That's why we're diverting.
So are you saying God? Let's even though that's
What
not.
I'm
But are
saying,
you?
what I'm
are
saying
you-
is that
so it's
the Old
suicide.
Testament God does not love you.
Wait.
The Old Testament God.
Let's talk about
you
the
can say that
suicide
he loves
thing.
you, but he
In your
doesn't love you.
Quran,
He
does
does
it
not love
say
his son.
that
Because
Allah
if he didn't
does
love his
Allah
son, he
encourage?
would not push his son in front
Does
of the moving
Allah
bus.
encourage?
He would come
Wait,
himself.
does
And
Allah
then you
encourage
said it- wait,
people
wait,
to go and sacrifice
wait.
themselves in the
You
name
said
of
it yourself.
Allah?
You said it yourself.
Answer that question.
Wait, you said it yourself.
Answer the question.
You said it yourself.
Answer the question.
You can forgive me. You can
If you're
forgive me
being
for sin.
sincere,
If I-
let's have a
if I
dialogue.
hurt you, wait.
Now, let me. Is it true or false? According
can we
to
not talk over each other?
yeah, let me talk and you respond. So is it true or false? According to your Quran, Allah encourages people to fight in the name of Allah, and if they are killed, they will receive a reward in heaven. Is that not suicide? According to your definition, is Allah encouraging suicide?
If they're fighting in the way of Allah. They went to fight. So
Yeah.
the British Army,
So
when they went
what
to
is- yeah,
Iraq
what is
to
martyrdom?
go fight,
What is martyrdom?
So they went there knowing fully well they're going to die. So is that suicide? No, it's fighting for a cause.
Excuse
There's
me,
two
what's
different things
martyrdom?
where
Answer the
you
question.
willingly kill yourself, hang yourself, like in prison. Yeah, that's called suicide. That's why more or less Jesus
What is
did.
martyrdom?
Yeah,
Can you
kill
explain?
yourself. Whatever the action
What is
is behind
martyrdom?
it. So when the prisoner killed himself, they have a reason. They're depressed or whatever. Yeah. So Jesus' justification is that I'm killing myself for humankind. Where's the justification? How is that love? How is that love to let humankind have the sin in the first place? God, if he was love, he would have forgiven mankind. But he didn't. He let us continue, and then what did he do? Son, you go for the moving bus, not me. Yeah, you die for 3 days and 3 nights, and that's enough. That's enough to save mankind. But has it saved mankind? There's more sin on earth right now than there was before. But he agreed. Him as a human being is more loving than Yahweh.
Now let's go to the verse.
Because
Are you listening? Now, Mr. Brown. Now it says, "Lo, Allah has brought from the believers their lives and their wealth, because the garden will be theirs. They shall fight in the way of Allah and shall be slain.
In the way of
and
Allah.
they shall slay and be slain.
way
It is
of
a
Allah.
promise
Suicide.
which is binding on him in the Torah and
the way
in the
of Allah.
Gospel and the Quran.
In the way of
Whosoever
Allah.
lives his confidence in Allah." So is that
You guys don't know the
suicide?
difference.
Is that suicide?
What's the definition
Is
of
that
suicide?
suicide?
What's the
Is that-
definition of suicide?
You tell us.
To take your own life for whatever reason.
Jesus
Take your
take
own
his own
life.
So if you go into
Take
a
your own
war
life.
knowing that you're going to die,
Did Jesus take his
take
own
his own
life?
life?
if you go
Did he take his
into a
own
war
life?
knowing that
Did
you're
he?
going to die,
Willingly.
is that suicide?
Willingly.
Is that
So that's
suicide?
suicide.
When they say
That's
suicide,
But you know what?
When
You
we
know
talk
what?
about suicide,
You guys are more loving than your God.
You're both
answer
right.
the question.
You guys are more loving than your God. What does it say about your God?
He's been
You guys are
hypocritical.
more loving
Jesus
than your God.
resurrected?
You see?
Wasn't
You guys-
Jesus resurrected?
So what? He went for
No,
the
Jesus
suffering.
resurrected.
Would you allow
But
your son-
do you
would
know
you allow
why? Do
your
you know
son
why
to go
he
for the
died?
suffering?
Do you know why he died?
matter
But
the
do you know why?
justification.
Do you know
No
why?
matter
we
the
will wrap up this
Do you know
episode.
anything about the resurrection?
Pedophiles now trying to justify
Do you
with
know what
this
his
mental
script has been
disease.
broken
We
down
need to love
and
thingy.
exposed?
Yeah, the gays justify it. The homosexuals justify that. We got this thinking we're born gay. Now the pedophiles are trying to justify it. We're born, we're liking kids. They're trying to justify this. They're trying to put this argument forward. Now here you are trying to justify suicide. But you know what?
You've
At
got
the end of the day,
suicide.
You're more loving.
What is going?
than
What is
God.
martyrdom?
At
What
end.
is martyrdom?
Thank you very much.
What is martyrdom?
Thank you very much.
What is martyrdom?
What is the definition
What
of
is
suicide?
martyrdom?
Definition of suicide.
What you see,
To kill
he's
yourself.
clearly refuted himself
Okay, thank you
with
very
his
much.
own definition. All right, take care. So clearly, again, we see more hypocrisy and double standards from the Islamic dawah carriers, because clearly he tried to come across as sincere, but that was not the point. He tried to use the phrase from Mike Lacona to say the crucifixion is not in the Old Testament. And I agree, it doesn't say crucifixion. The passages talk about someone whose hands and feet were going to be pierced. It's only retrospectively when Christ was crucified that they understood these passages related to Christ. And that's why I went into outside sources from non-Christian sources which say that even communities before Christianity had beliefs that the Messiah would be killed or he'll come close to death. And we also see passages where even in the rabbis they talk about Isaiah 53 being referred to the Messiah. So clearly we see this is how prophecies work. They're not all explicit, they're embedded within the text. But then he had no problem to say Muhammad was in the Old Testament. But it didn't say this person's going to come with the Quran. It didn't say this is going to be an Arabic prophet. It didn't say this is going to be someone called Muhammad. But then how come he can find Muhammad in the Bible, but when the Israelites are reading the book that was given to them to identify who the Messiah was going to be, he then tries to reject it. Then when we asked him about the greatest deed someone can do, he admitted he would give his life for his own children. Why? Because that is the greatest deed that anyone can do. When Christ came to demonstrate this greatest deed, then he's trying to say it's a suicide mission. But then if he has a problem with suicide, then he should then throw his Quran in the bin, which says that if you go and fight in the cause of Allah and reach martyrdom, you will receive a reward in heaven. So clearly we have to break down this Islamic script, which is full of hypocritical attacks on the Bible. How can he read passages from the Bible which says God doesn't love, but then when we asked him the same question about Allah's love, he said he doesn't know. He said he doesn't study the Quran. But then you're studying the Bible, but you don't know your own religion. You've memorized the Quran in Arabic and you didn't know what one word said. Does that make logical sense to anyone? So this is why we have to have a criteria and break down the Islamic argument, because what they like to do, and this is what we see many of the dawah carriers in the park do, they go up to unlearned Christians, bring out these verses, but they're very hypocritical.
Jordan M asked why you're not focusing on preaching Christianity.
Go on Soko.
You got a playlist.
Even last week I gave a video about Christianity, so that refutes him. It's a 10-minute video.
Tell Jordan M to shut up.
If Jordan M wants to come and debate me, he can come and debate me.
Tell him he's a white hooligan.
I won't say he's a white hooligan, but he's just someone who doesn't know what he's talking about. So on that note, until next week.
There you go.
Calling him out. Come down to the park.
Tell him.
Right here, right now.
And this is the thing I also want to say. The hypocrisy
Jordan M.
of people like Jordan M and the Islamic Dawah team. This is called Speaker's Corner. Anyone can come and speak about whatever they want to. We are not dimmies where someone says, oh, do you know what? Talk about this. If I wanted to come and talk about beef burgers for the rest of my life, a vegan could not come and tell me to speak about something else. So what right does it give people like Jordan M to tell us to talk about Christianity? Why doesn't he go up to Hashim and tell him to talk about Islam? When have we ever heard Hashim talk about the deen of Islam? He talks about the Trinity every week. When has he ever talked about the Prophet Muhammad, what his teachings were?
And now Jordan's apologising.
Well, he should apologise. Hypocrisy. We have to keep challenging these supremacist views. So on that note, peace out.
Go on, baby. All right, you broke.